Alright, so a lot of people have been asking me about what this format's about and what are the best color combinations of Theros Beyond Death. And I wanted to make a short video just talking about the color combinations and what the format has felt like in my experience so far. So I just recently hit rank 1 Mythic from Platinum 4 to Mythic in a little bit under 9 drafts. So like 8.5 drafts. And this format has been something like I've never really seen before in Limited. So this is a weird format where you have a lot of decks that go extremely long and dirtle really, really hard, and there's a lot of games that just go naturally to decking. And there's also decks that just end the game and just kill you. So, in my opinion, that's kind of a symbol of a good format, right? Where a lot of different things are viable, where you can have a lot of decision making in terms of how you craft your deck. Every single card plays a role in a 40-card deck. And if you want to look at the tier list yourself, tier lists are public and available at deathsea.com. I am frequently updating the deck list as well when my opinions change on cards. So let's go through the color combinations. So first of all, I think that both white and black are the strongest colors in the format. So black is a deeper color than white in the sense where the commons and uncommons of black are very, very powerful. I think the white is very close behind black as the second most powerful color. However, due to the flexibility of white and it being able to pair up with the other color combinations extremely well, I personally think that white is the best color in the format, which is something that, you know, we haven't really heard for a long time. You know, maybe, I don't know, like for probably the last like 5 or 6 draft formats, that has not been the case. White has been generally the weakest. So white, let's just go through all the iterations here. So for me, I believe that white-blue is a really, really cool color combination. My favorite thing to do with white-blue so far is to rely on cards such as here. Let me see if I can show my cursor here. Is that working? Is that working? Nope, it's not. Oh, hold on here. All right, I think you can see my cursor on here now. All right. So, cards like Karametra's Blessing, together with cards like Starlit Mantle, really allow you to protect your creatures when you have these powerful auras on them. So, Blue-White has access to Commanding Presence. You have Staggering Insight, which I think is actually the best uncommon in the format. Like, this card is ridiculous. You get to draw cards, you get to gain life, and a lot of times it's just game over if they can't answer it. And if they can't answer it, well, you have cards like Karametra's Blessing and Starlit Mantle to protect them. Now blue-white in this format a lot of times is not about ground creatures. So you're gonna be drafting cards like Riptide Turtle, and then cards like a Vexing Gull to actually win in the sky. So blue has a lot of good flyers. Vexing Gull, you have Witness of Tomorrows, which is potentially the best blue common. It does have diminishing returns as a 5-drop. It's very expensive, but for what it does, it's just very powerful. And because of that, I actually rate Transcendent Envoy extremely high. So Transcendent Envoy is not only good at wearing auras, it makes auras like Commanding Presence cheaper, and it fetches the aura, and it basically allows your, say, like your Starlit Mantle to be casted at a discounted rate. 1 mana dive down, and it, you know, continues to buff your creatures with +1/+1. Extremely, extremely powerful. And because of all that, Heliod's Pilgrim is an extremely high pick. So Pilgrim, just being kind of the toolbox, get the best thing in your deck, and set up for, you know, your aura stuff is extremely powerful. Cards such as Memory Drain, something that I've been liking quite a lot in this format. Once you get into a position where you have a very like properly suited blue-white flyer or something like that, then you can basically just have your checkmate for the things that you can't beat. Shimmering Chimera, extremely powerful in the blue-white archetype. Just bounces your omens and stuff like that. Bounces your Omen of the Sea. Bounces basically everything. And of course, you have the Starlit Mantle combo where you enchant something, give a hex proof in response to the thing, and then you can bounce it with Shimmering Chimera. Extremely powerful. So overall, actually, blue-white is my favorite color combination of the set. I think it's extremely good, and a lot of the power of the deck just revolves around the commons and uncommons. Nextly, white-black. So I did say black was the most powerful color combination, right? So what happens when you pair both of the two color combinations together? Black-white is a very interesting archetype, and again, in general, it does kind of revolve around auras. So black-white is this kind of weird archetype that is extremely grindy. So if you ever played black-white in any other format, you know that it's just a real grind fest. Every single time you're playing black-white, you're just grinding out the game, trying to like squeeze out value. It almost feels like a Jund type of value, where you're squeezing the like the game out from its very core. So black-white, one of the coolest things I like to do with it is Rise to Glory. I feel like this is a rare power level card at uncommon. It's a powerful card that gets back like Dreadful Apathies, Commanding Presence, and just a bunch of other stuff, again, revolving around cards such as the Transcendent Envoy and Heliod's Pilgrim to be able to fetch those. And this color combination is really powerful. A few key cards that I would like to point out are Hateful Eidolon. It's a 1-mana 1/2 that whenever you put in, like whenever something dies and had your aura on it, then you get a draw card. So with cards like Myra's Grasp and to a lesser extent Mogis' Favor, you can just essentially get 2-for-1s for your removal. And Hateful Eidolon is a body with lifelink, which actually wears the auras such as Commanding Presence extremely well. So overall, black-white extremely powerful. The second kind of build-around thing that you can do with it is also having a Dawn Evangel. And this card is not as powerful as a Hateful Eidolon, but if you have cards like Hateful Eidolon, whenever you kill stuff, you can get that back. So that's powerful in its own way. Yeah, but black-white, very, very powerful. And the thing that people don't talk about black-white, and a card that people don't talk about black-white in general, is Aspect of Lamprey. So I guess I can pull these up, actually. So Aspect of Lamprey, 4 mana, just enchant creature you control, and then enters battlefield, your opponent discards 2 cards, and your guy gets lifelink. So in a battle of attrition, it's just the best thing ever. A lot of times you just can't beat Aspect of the Lamprey. One also cool thing about it is that it curves, Aspect of Lamprey curves from Heliod's Pilgrim, just straight, giving you a body and something to put Aspect of the Lamprey on. It's not the best target for it, but it is a target, it's a 1 attack thing, not the best thing to put on it. So a lot of times you do want to prioritize good 2-drops so that you can go like 2-drop into Heliod's Pilgrim, which is a pretty easy thing to do. And then you grab the Aspect of Lamprey and play the Aspect on the 2-drop, which is a little bit better. So cards such as Leonin and the Lost Bride, 3/1, not the best target for it. Also not the card I meant to pull up, but Hero of the Pride here. Hero of the Pride, very powerful one. And again, like generally, even if you're not a go wide strategy, it attacks as a 3/2 lifelinker. And it's a card that people have to respect, right? That they have to respect. Again, in this archetype, Karametra's Blessing, just pretty important. I wouldn't say it's a high pick, but it's a card that's pretty important, just be able to protect your stupid aura stuff. And oftentimes, people can't do anything about it. So, alright, next color combination is going to be red-white. Red-white is a color combo that I like a lot as well, especially if you get to pick up certain uncommons, such as Hero the Nyxborn. So this thing's not only an enchantment creature, but it's also, it has the heroic mechanic. Whenever you target it, all of your stuff get +1/+0. Red-white is essentially a go-wide strategy that really focuses just on these heroes. So you can run certain cards such as Rapid Flames, which target each hero. So you can like target a hero, one of your heroes, target another one of your heroes, make one of their guys unable to block. It's a very flexible card. And a lot of the decks in this format are very aura-centric, which is why I think white is kind of the glue that ties a lot of these colors together. So Heliod's Pilgrim, being able to fetch out certain key auras, such as Iroas's Blessing, which in my opinion is the best red common in the set. So 4 mana, just enchant one of your things, it gets +1/+1, and it deals 4 damage to one of your opponent's creatures. Really large tempo swing, very large damage swing, and with a buff, with a stat buff as well. Just everything you basically want in a deck like that. Now, in red-white, in general, as you can see down here, I have a lot of D-rated cards. So I feel like red is actually the weakest color in the format. And there's a lot of cards that are kind of just trying to trick you into playing them, right? So you have a lot of these cards that basically don't really do much for the most part. So red is kind of a color that is going to be hard to draft quite often just because, well, the premium cards are far and few in between. But if you do get to get them, I think it's very powerful, especially paired with the white. So in red-white, a lot of these token makers, cards such as Omen of the Sun, you know, just being able to make a few tokens that are good at blocking and good at attacking, and having some scry in it is very powerful. And of course, this Reverend Hoplite, which I have down here as a C, is pretty good as long as you're like essentially 66% white. You know, like 2/3 of your deck is white. That's gonna be good in your red-white deck. Very, very powerful, very, very powerful color combination, and being able to have like quite a few aggressive attackers as well, such as Daybreak Chimera, assuming that you're white enough. So red-white, a color combo that I like a lot. White-green is actually the color combination of white that I personally like the least. I think that is fine. Just the problem with green-white is, well, the problem always good with green-white is that it's trying to be aggressive, but more often than times it stalls out, right? So you're going to be playing green-white, and you're going to be like fetching your auras and stuff, and sure, it's going to be cool. You have cards such as Siona, right? Captain of the Pyleas. And sure, she gets you an aura, and then when you equip one of your things, you get a 1/1, but overall, it's just a really, really slow archetype in general. One of the most powerful auras for green is Warbriar Blessing. So Warbriar Blessing, just being able to fight things at a very efficient rate, giving your creatures a stat bonus, being able to fetch this with Heliod's Pilgrim, just extremely powerful. And again, I feel like the green-white, for the most part, there's a lot of different ways it can look. So it can be a more aggressive deck, low to the ground, having cards like Pious Wayfarer as like your 1-drop, being able to like just attack as well as possible. Or you can have a deck that curves up a little bit higher, and you have cards like Nylea's Forerunner and things like that to eventually end the game at a later stage. Quite often in decks like these, once you recognize that if they're not fast enough, you can look for cards like Eutropia to potentially give yourself that sort of push over the edge in those stalemate situations. So green-white, really, really weird format. One of the things I hate most about green in this format is the existence of this card here. Where is it? Nexus Wardens, okay? So this card's a common, just a spider. It's a derper. 3 mana, 1/4 reach, and then whenever an enchantment enters battlefield, on your side, you gain 2 life. So, this is the card that stalls out games the most in this format. Most of the games that go to natural decking or are just, you know, like, well, I can't attack, they can't attack, is because of this idiot here, okay? Well, these idiots, I guess. So, your white-green deck is going to vary quite frequently. It's going to be very, very strange most of the time. You just have to remember while you're drafting to focus on essentially a game plan. Like, what is my deck trying to do? Okay, what's the best way to reach that end goal while, you know, being in my green-white deck? Okay, next color combinations. Blue-black. Blue-black, everyone knows I love Dimir. Blue-black is also a very weird color combination in this format. In general, blue-black is known as like the value control color. And in this format, I would say that it's a little bit less like that. Sure, cards like Elspeth's Nightmare allows you to stall out games. Sorry, not stall out games, but be able to get like two or three for ones quite often at the times if you're exiling like a deck that cares about their graveyard. And it's just extremely powerful. For me, the most successful blue-black decks have been the decks that are actually like blue-black flash. So cards like Vex and Gull are very important. Cards like Vex and Gull being able to hold up your, say, either your Starlit Mantle to protect one of your creatures, or your Omen of the Sea to draw you cards, or to a lesser extent Thirst for Meaning to draw you cards. Not every deck likes Thirst for Meaning, but it's still a powerful card, and it works with kind of the flash theme. You also have cards like Riptide Turtle, which is just like, this is essentially Icy Manipulator. You know, if the creatures don't have flying, just take an extremely powerful card. There's a lot of 4-attack things in this format. Just being able to blank them is just so powerful. And quite often, again, you're winning with your flyers. So you're winning with a Vex and Gull, you're winning with the Shimmerwing Chimera, and again, to a lesser extent, you're winning with Scavenging Harpy, but that's not a card that I particularly like a lot. Now, black does have the best removal suite. So you have cards like Final Death, you have cards like Myra's Grasp, and again, you have Mogis' Favor. Just being able to, and also Inevitable End as well. Just being able to just kill things is fine, but essentially, you cannot always win simply just by going 1-for-1 in this format. So the value package of black-blue in this format, I feel, is a little bit lacking. So you do need to end games by attacking. One card that has actually been an overperformer for me has been Devourer of Memory. So this card is very flexible, not only like putting cards into your graveyard for fueling escape, but just being a stupid evasive thing once the game stalls out, or once you've used enough 1-for-1 removal, and then your like your Riptide Turtles are essentially just blocking the rest of the stuff for the rest of the game. It's been very good for me just ending those games. So overall, again, the blue-black deck varies from a deck that's very tempo-oriented, like a flash black-blue deck, to a extreme control deck. But in this format, you need to remember that if you're an extreme control deck, you better have either the value or the bombs/card quality in order to finish the game. So I've seen a lot of decks just have just think that you can go 1-for-1 removal and just win the game. This is not that kind of format. There are cards like Escape, which provides additional value in these other non-traditionally value colors. And also, some of these bombs are just very, very difficult to beat. Some of these bombs are like, 3-for-1s, 2-for-1s, stuff like that. Archons of Sun Grace. You have to be really careful about how you approach your blue-black deck. Generally, you do want to try to win by damage in this format with blue-black. Next, blue-red. Blue-red is kind of a weird color. It's signposted by certain cards such as, where is it here? The 3-mana 4/2. Where is it? 3-mana 4/2. What in the world is it called again? Oh, Dreamstalker Manticore here. So, it wants you to cast spells on your opponent's turn to, get some sort of extra value. Now, what I've found in this format is that even though you have these cards like the Stinging Lionfish, these cards actually don't really go into blue-red that well. It's fine, but generally that's not what you're really trying to do. Essentially, what you're trying to do with blue-red is to use blue as the foundation color, and again, try to win in the sky, while using red's good removal. Okay, so cards like Irose's Blessing, cards like Fateful End, just 3-mana deal 3, and essentially just playing at instant speed while holding up counter spells. So, for example, Scophos Maze Warden, I feel like this is a really powerful attacker in cards in color combinations like red-black, and in color combinations like red-green. But in red-blue, you don't really want these ground attackers, in my opinion, because the thing is that most of the time, red-blue doesn't attack on the ground very well. So, Blue-red, red-blue is still kind of that flash color combination, leaning very heavily on blue. And the last blue combination is blue-green. In general, blue-green is this really, really weird color combination that you, in a way, you can't really win just in the sky because the green doesn't really lend itself that well to supporting blue as, you know, just being able to play the blue cards and then for whatever reason you play these green cards as support. It doesn't really work like that. Green is kind of a main color in this format, and the most powerful things about green is that they have good attackers. So you have cards like Voracious Typhon, which is 4-mana 4/4 with, you know, with a cherry on top of exile, of escape, being able to come back from the graveyard. You have cards like Nessian Hornbeetle, which is very powerful in the sense of if you curve out with a 4-powered things, it just becomes a very, very large attacker for no reason, extremely quickly as well. And you have cards like Loathsome Chimera, which is, I guess it's like the second premium escape target, but this card has actually been underperforming for me quite a bit. But Loathsome Chimera, you know, all of these cards, they really want to attack on the ground. So whenever you are attacking on the ground, you don't actually want to split your forces between the ground and the air. So it doesn't make sense to attack with like these 4-powered creatures, these big attackers, and like cards like Nylea's Forerunner and stuff like that, and then just have like random Vexing Gulls. Like that makes no sense, right? Because the reason why these cards are flying is because you're losing stats. So there's always a payoff. So if you are already needing to attack on the ground, you need to just continue attacking the ground. So for me, blue-green is actually this kind of weird Timmy, build your board state up and try to get like this really, really powerful board and to try to have these like big attackers, but also being able to utilize the disruption of blue. So I personally don't like the way that blue-green has played out often in this format. The counter spells and stuff don't really work that well when you're trying to tap out for your creatures. It just doesn't really make that much sense. Cards like Eutropia, however, are cards that help your ground creatures finish off in the sky. So cards like Eutropia, cards like Wings of Hubris, actually in this format, are pretty good in green, just because they do allow you to finish out the game, and being able to put these on high attack creatures is very important. So I see a lot of people play Wings of Hubris, playing it on just like derpy white creatures that are like 2 or 3 attack, and in all honesty, that's not what you want to be doing. Like, you need to get bang out of your buck with cards like Wings of Hubris. Either that, or sometimes you'll sideboard it in. But yeah, blue-green is a color combination I really don't like in the format. Though in most formats, I don't like blue-green in general, just because of the play style. Like, the colors don't really mesh that well together. So, yeah. All right, let's move on to black. I know a lot of people are very interested in the black color combinations. And obviously, we're not going to go over the color combinations we've already talked about. We already talked about white-black. We've talked about black-blue. But red-black. Red-black, in this format, more so than ever, is very good at this sort of sacrifice theme. So the only real way to steal your opponent's stuff, at least at common, is with Portent of Betrayal. So this card's 4 mana, you know, compared to the normal 3 mana that we know for Act of Treason. And it's expensive for a reason, because it's very important. So you really want to be finding the sack outlets in red-black. So red-black, some of the best sack outlets, well, the absolute best one's a Woe Strider, but this one's a rare, right? Like, you get to sacrifice something just without paying mana. That's always kind of what you're looking for in a deck like this. Generally, the power of the sacking and stealing and sacking comes down to just how much it costs. So my second best vote for a sack outlet is Lampad of Death's Vigil. Now, this is a weird card to run in an aggressive deck because, well, it only has 1 attack. But in this format, it's pretty good at blocking. It's pretty good at just ending a game, providing additional reach, and also unlocking cards like Pharika's Spawn from pacify effects, like Ichthyomorphosis. Ichthyomorphosis and cards like Dreadful Apathy. But yeah, Lampad of Death's Vigil, very core in a deck like this. Now, after Lampad, we do get to the 2 mana sacks. So I believe, unless I'm wrong, I believe that there are 2 mana sacks. So the first one here is going to be the gold card for the archetype, Slaughter Priest of Mogis. This card is a card that looks very powerful, but it's actually a lot harder to use in practice. But it costs 2 mana to sacrifice a creature or enchantment. So at 2 mana, that's, you know, twice as much as Lampad. It means on turn 6, you can go Portent and sacrifice their thing. The other one at uncommon in red only is actually a card that I personally don't like at all. But it is good enough if you need sack outlets. Blood Aspirant, again, it costs 2 mana, but on the front face of it, it's a 2 mana 1/1, and that's kind of not really what you want to be doing in your aggressive decks. After that, we have a few 3 mana sack outlets. So we have Soul Reaper of Mogis, which, in my opinion, I actually don't like it that much in this format. Sacrifice a creature, it's fine. It's no Spark Reaper. There's not a mask lying around. Sacking off tokens is still sacking off a resource. So for the most part, I don't like this card that much. I think it's fine. But with the Portent of Betrayal, this comes in as 7 mana, being able to sacrifice one of their things to draw a card. You also have Final Flare, which you can you steal their thing, sacrifice it, and then deal 5 damage or something. That's a pretty good one as well. And one thing that's good about this is that you can use like your leftover your leftover omens, the Omen of the Dead, and the whatever the red omen's called, Omen of the Forge, and you can also use your Irosa's Blessing and stuff like that, right? So you put Irosa's Blessing on something, and then you can sacrifice this enchantment to use Final Flare. That's pretty good. But, so basically, you're just playing the Final Flare in the deck as if it were just a sacrifice something and deal 5 damage. And then, on top of that, it sometimes combos with Portent of Betrayal. The last one is, again, another card I don't like. Dream Shaper Shaman. I really don't like this one. It costs 6 mana. You can technically curve into the Portent, I guess. You can pay this for 6 mana, and then on 7 mana, assuming that you have 7 on 7, you can Portent, and then at the end step, sacrifice a thing. I really don't like this card at all. It's a cool card, but most of these red-black decks, or any red deck, right, is running these small things. So you can't really get around, like, you're trying to break the Dream Shaper Shaman. It just doesn't really get broken. And then the final color, black-green, is a color combination that I feel a lot of people overrate. I think that black-green is a fine color combo, but the problem with black-green is that it comes in many different shapes and sizes. So you can range from having like these super dirtily green-black decks to having green-black decks that actually attack well, right? Decks with like Nessian Hornbeetle and Loathsome Chimera into Voracious Typhon. You're relying on that green for the aggression, and then the black is for the value, right? Like you're using cards like Elspeth's Nightmare, using cards like Final Death and Myers Grasp just as efficient removal. And then you obviously get the the sort of value, like the most value via escape in this format. So you can utilize your cards like Pharika Spawn. You can utilize your cards like what is it? Relentless Pursuit to the fullest extent. So putting cards in your graveyard and being able to use them for escape later on is very powerful. The one thing to note about cards like Relentless Pursuit and these other cards kind of like that, you know, Omen of the Dead, you really have to be careful, because in black-green, I would say that it's probably the hardest deck to build well. And you don't always get there as well. You don't really always have the choice in order to build it more aggressive or build it more controlling. Quite often what I see in black-green is that you end up with a deck with a lot of powerful cards and high card quality, and maybe you'll even pick up like an Acolyte of Affliction, which is just, you know, a great value card just to rebuy something. But that balance of trying to find like the aggression and the value is very difficult. So I feel like a lot of times the black-green decks don't have a clear enough of a game plan. Like, they're trying to be aggressive, but you're trying to get the value out of it as well. And it's just very difficult to like, build a good green-black deck. Like, you can get a lot of decent green-black decks, but I personally think that it's hard to find good green-black decks. So green-black is a color combination that I personally don't like that much in this format. Not simply because it's complicated, but just that a lot of times the deck doesn't play out the way that you imagine it or envision it in your head. So moving on here, what's the next one here? So I guess red, right? So we talked about most of these color combinations already. So red-green is a color combination that I find is very difficult to build in this format, all right? It's not a color combination that's obvious to build. So green-red in this format, for me, is a color in which you want to play stats out at every single point of the game. So therefore, cards like Elysian Caryatid, sure, it looks like it's supposed to be in this sort of a Gruul deck with 4 power creatures or more, and it's going to tap for extra mana and stuff like that. And it is fine if you have a lot of top end, but in general, I like my Gruul decks in this format to curve out. Okay, I like to play stats in turn 2, stats in turn 3, stats in turn 4, and for the most part, it doesn't really matter what those stats are as long as they're statted. So Caryatid is a card that, in general, in Gruul, I don't like to play it on turn 2 unless I'm playing, like, you know, unless I have a bunch of Voracious Typhons, you know, 4 mana 4/4, and I have you know, maybe I have 2 or 3 Ferris Band Brawlers or something like that. Overall, I would rather even just play like a Skola Grove Dancer on turn 2, you know? Or probably the best aggressive 2-drop at common for this color combination is Incinerate Oracle. So you really just want to be able to play your stuff, be able to find ways to gain tempo swings. So cards like Infuriate and Gift of Growth, I believe, are a little bit underrated in color combinations like this. I also think that certain cards such as the Wings of Hubris work very well in red-green. Generally, you don't really want to play more than one. I think one is way more than enough. But just make sure that you can keep on attacking. Like, you want to be able to keep on attacking, end their life. One card that I don't really like in this format that I know a lot of people are still playing is Underworld Ragehound. I think it's a fine card. It's going to vary on the matchup. It's obviously good against, like, the blue-black deck or whatever. But, I mean, assuming that they don't have Mogis' favor and stuff like that. But it's a card that's better on the play. You know, if in best of 3, you might side it out on the draw. But Underworld Ragehound, in general, not really what I want. I want to be able to build up board tension in my decks, and I don't want my things just to be attacking, and I'm going to try to save it, or I'm going to let it get eaten by, like, a 1/4 or something like that. So it's very important, in my opinion, to have stats and be able to control the flow of the game. So, again, cards like Rose's Blessing, just very important. Cards like Impending Doom, actually a card I like a lot in general. Just being able to jam this on some of your things and gaining that value in terms of face damage, immediate face damage, is extremely important. Cards such as Return to Nature, so all of the disenchants, even Mystic Repeals and stuff like that. In general, my biggest recommendation to you is to not run these. So if you are running like a grindy black-green deck, it's probably fine to run even like a Return to Nature and a Mystic Repeal. If you're a deck that's trying to attack, leave these in the sideboard. You cannot afford to clog up a space in your hand with this sort of a reactive card, no matter how many targets there are in the format. So I really don't like that. And again, cards like Omen of the Hunt, really try to stay away from them. Just try to play stats at every single point of the game, even if it has to be something like a Stampede Rider, which I don't think is very good in this format. So just make sure you're always able to attack and attack and attack because in general, you know, green-red is not known for its removal or anything. You want to just be able to leverage your good stats and to end the game and not stall out the game. So I believe that's all of the color combinations here of Theros Beyond Death. I think that it's been an extremely fun learning experience for me playing this format. In general, I don't really like creatures, but, you know, in a format with auras, it makes sense that there's just a lot of creatures. There's really no, like, off-the-board strategies in this format. There's, like, not really AoE at uncommon or anything, just, like, very, very bad ones, like Underworld Fires and stuff that deals 1 damage AoE to everything. So overall, board is king in this format. And it's been certainly weird. Some other advice I have for this format is to just make sure that your deck has a good balance of focusing on its game plan, focusing on the synergy, what the deck is trying to accomplish, yet also having certain value cards. Because the thing is that a lot of times I see these sort of red-white decks that just fizzle out, right? Like, you're sure it sounds super good to have like all these pious wayfarers and to be able to just end the game, right? Just kill them. Let's just run a low land deck and let's curve out and kill them. But in all reality, that's not how the format plays out. So yes, you want to have stuff that you're able to like deal damage with in an aggressive deck and curve out and get bored. But you also want ways to end the game, right? So, you know, cards like Rapid Flames, cards like cards that have evasion like Flyers, powerful cards like Commanding Presence. Again, I really like Commanding Presence. Just being able to go over the top of decks is extremely important. So even in an aggro deck, for example, Heliod's Pilgrim is going to be one of your best cards. Like, it gives you a body, searches you up a thing, and yeah, it's not aggressive, okay? It's not aggressive. It's a 3-mana 1/2. But the thing is that you build up that board tension, you build up that value, and at some point, it'll overflow. So, yeah, again, if you want to check out my tier list, it is on deathsea.com. It's available to everybody, constantly updated. It also has other tier lists as well from Eldraine, Dominaria, M20, whatever it may be. You know, if you might have a flashback draft or your FNM. And they are generally good for sealed as well. So, yep, I will see you guys on stream. And until next time, thank you so much for Theros Beyond Death recap here at Destiny's Dueling Academy. See ya.